Macro beer sucks, craft beer kicks ass.
Why does macro beer suck?
Because it's boring and has no flavor.
What makes craft beer so good?
It tastes better and is made by real people, by hand, with care and passion.
Made by real people. Is macro beer made by robots?
No. But their brewers just have to push buttons. They don't actually know anything about beer.
Didn't Stone hire a brewer from a macro brewery?
No. Greg never worked for a macro brewery.
You do know Greg isn't the brewer, right?
Stone is awesome. They make beer by hand, with passion that you aren't worthy to drink.
You do realize that Stone has one of the most advanced computer-run breweries in the country, right?
But their beers are made with passion.
You realize that passion is not an ingredient. I had a craft beer a while back in California. It was horrible. It tasted of burnt asparagus and flour water.
That was probably a macro wannabe trying to make a craft beer.
No. I had it at the brewery. All their beers sucked. They were horrible, infected messes that were too heavy and sticky sweet.
You're probably just not used to craft beer's powerful flavor. Craft beer is great. It's the fastest growing segment in alcohol today. It grew over 10% last year alone.
But craft beer still only makes up just 5% of the overall market, right?
That's because macro beer sucks.
Remind me again, what sucks about macro beer? I have been drinking it for years and love that it's clean and refreshing.
It's not clean, it's boring and gross.
No, it's clean. It may not be the most impressive flavor profile out there, but it is certainly clean and refreshing. More refreshing and clean than the craft beer I had.
You need to try a double IPA. Those will show you what craft beer is all about.
I've had a double IPA once. It was yeasty, dark with too much caramel, no hop flavor and just a ton of bitterness.
The bitterness is the hop flavor though, it's really good.
No. Bitterness is not the same as hop flavor. Hop flavors are citrusy, floral, earthy, piney and bright.
You can tell how hoppy a beer is by the number of IBUs.
No. You can tell how bitter a beer is by the IBUs. They speak nothing to the actual flavor of hops.
You don't understand. Maybe you just don't like hops. In that case, you should try Bourbon Barrel Imperial Stout. Those are the best.
Sounds delicious. But aren't those heavy and high in alcohol?
Craft beer is supposed to have more alcohol. You should try the new Bourbon Imperial Stout. It's only 11 so you can have a few pints no problem.
Excuse me? Did you say you could have a few pints of this beer?
Yeah, it's really like a session version of an Imperial Stout. You can't believe how easy it is to drink.
I've had a regular Imperial Stout before. It was actually quite good, but I think the 10-ounce pour I had was more than enough for me.
You've had an Imperial Stout. I thought you said you didn't like craft beer.
I never said that. You said that macro beer sucked and craft beer rocked. I was only suggesting that craft beer is a meaningless term. It is not a measure of quality. There are some very good craft beers on the market, but there are also a whole lot that are worse than the macro beer you hate.
Not cool, man. Macro beer sucks. I'm sorry. I would drink the worst craft beer any day before I drank a macro beer.
You do realize that makes no sense, don't you?
You don't understand. Macro beer is evil. They are just marketing companies and everything they do is horrible.
Isn't your favorite craft beer distributed by a company that was built on macro beer? Isn't the fact that you can get your favorite craft beers anywhere largely attributed to the years of work by the macro brewers to develop a complex distribution system that is efficient and cost-effective?
No. Macro beer sucks.
Okay, have you ever made a lager before?
Lagers suck. Craft beer is all about flavor and lagers are bland.
So you don't like pilsners?
If it's a craft pilsner, I like it.
I have had many craft brewed pilsners that were horrible, tasted like green apples and smelled like diapers.
You probably had a bad batch. That's the great thing about craft beer, it constantly changes.
You mean craft brewers are inconsistent?
No, they're artists. They don't have to make the same thing all the time. It's great.
But if they have a good recipe, why mess with it? Why not make the same great beer again?
You don't get it, man. That's what is so great about craft beer.
I have to admit, I had that Sam Adams Pilsner last month and thought it was fantastic. They are a great craft brewery.
Sam Adams is hardly craft. They're just a marketing company.
I'm confused. They are not a craft brewery?
No. Big breweries are different than craft breweries. Their beers are boring. Except Utopia's. That's one of the best beers ever because it costs over $100 for a bottle.
I'm confused. You say craft beer is good, but hate Sam Adams, except for their expensive beer, which you paid over $100 for.
No man, I couldn't buy it, but it's fantastic. The beer sites all say it's exceptional.
Oh brother.
Clearly you don't get it, but you will. Craft beer is growing exponentially right now and soon you'll see it everywhere.
How much did craft beer grow last year?
Over 10%, because craft beer is awesome.
Doesn't Sam Adams account for roughly 20% of the craft beer market?
No.
According to the Brewers Association, craft brewers sold just under 10 million barrels of beer in 2010. According to Boston Beer Company, their production was approximately 2 million. Isn't that around 20% of the total craft beer market?
I don't know. They suck anyway.
Why do they suck again?
Their beers are boring. They're not like craft beers at all.
I find their lager quite clean and easy to drink. I've also quite enjoyed their Noble Pils and their Scotch Ale.
I don't know. They're not that bad, I suppose.
So, if I understand right, it sounds like you really don't have a definition for craft beer, nor do you have a standard measure of quality, but essentially beers you like are craft beers. Beer you don't like is something else. You hate macro beer, primarily because you say it's boring and not made by hand, even though many larger craft breweries use similar technology. When the brewers brew for macro brewers they suck, but when they work at a craft brewery they're awesome. Does that about sum it all up?
Yes. That sounds about right.
You realize that is absurd, right? You don't have to drink macro beer, as you call it, but its actual quality cannot be questioned. There are a lot of great beers out there, but there's also a lot of infected and poorly crafted beers. There is no clean and easy way to summarize beer, and your sweeping statements here in the beer aisle make you sound like a moron to folks that love their macro beer.
That's because they've been brainwashed by the ads on TV.
Wow. You're a great salesperson. I feel like you are really trying to understand my tastes and feelings, and respect the choices I make that have absolutely zero impact on your life. I respect beer. I wish beer lovers would respect me, too.
Was it something I said?